Good evening, Remnant Few. It's time to discuss what's fundamentally true. And you'll have to excuse me, I'm recovering from the snarfles this past week. So um, I think I've come up with a format for these musings. So I'm going to begin with new aftermath narratives. And my musings about that is beginning with uh, Miss Kirk's acceptance of the Medal of Freedom, I think it was, and the bits that I've heard about feedback on that is people are still saying that she's being performative. And with her grief and the way that she's conducting herself. And then some have even gone as far as saying that her hairdo and the braid that she wore, that she's never worn her hair like that, and that the timing of uh, debuting such a hairdo with the braid, crowned braid, was symbolic of what part of the club um, that she's been initiated into because of her. I think it's her grandfather or her father or something like that being part of some kind of faction of I don't know. I can't remember which one it was. Some Swedish faction. So of some kind of secret society or something. So that, I thought that was interesting. And then another thing that I heard in regards to the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination is that some man conducted research and decided to see if anybody was doing Google searches before September 10th. And he discovered that there were IP addresses from Washington, D.C. and Israel that had done searches on Google in July of this year, all the way up until the day before September 10th. And the searches were about looking up the hospital in Utah that Charlie Kirk was brought to, and that hospital he was brought to was actually farther away from the university where he got shot. And apparently there was another hospital that had a trauma center that they didn't go to that was closer. And also these Google searches were doing research about the different surgeons that worked at the hospital that Charlie Kirk was brought to. And there was even some searches about Tyler Robinson's name, the alleged shooter. So there were searches about his name before the world knew about him. And so that's all really, really strange coincidences. And I'm going to try to link the videos that I watched and discovered all of this through. Okay, so now time for landmarks. Landmarks of the aftermath of how close we are to TheWord vindicating himself. One landmark that I learned about this past week was that Vietnam deleted 86 million bank accounts because the owners and the people that own these bank accounts missed the deadline of September 1st to connect their bank accounts with a biometric account. So they got deleted. And that this whole connecting bank accounts with biometrics is to combat fraud. So just like this, you can get deleted if you don't fall into lockstep of what's required for you to protect your numbers, otherwise known as money. Also, I've been doing research about biometrics and artificial intelligence, and there are proponents that are saying that biometrics is necessary to combat artificial intelligence because AI could become a problem creating counterfeit accounts. So it's basically, technology, the advancements of technology is is convenient and also conveniently creating problems that require a convenient solution. So it's very, very odd and noteworthy, all of that. And so, and also the thing about AI is that there are a lot of the most influential men at the forefront of this technology who are into occult practices. They're into trying to communicate and engage with the supernatural, and on the spectrum of the more negative side. And so that's mind-blowing as well, but I'm not surprised that that's occurring because the book, if you take the book literally, the book of the Word, if you take it literally, if you choose to take it literally, it warns and it tells that there is an opposing entity. The enemy of the Word has been around for 6,000 years minimum and has been studying human behavior and how to convincingly deceive the majority of human beings. So we're at the end of, we're getting towards the end of the Word allowing this evil, intelligent being to exist. And so I'm not surprised that there's this very strange dynamic between artificial intelligence and the occult. And if you study history, it's history shows that war is the perpetuator of technology. And that's where actually World War II perpetuated computers, the concept of computers, because I was obsessed with Alan Turing for some time, and he's considered like the grandfather or the godfather of computers. So what I've learned is that throughout history, there are certain patterns, and war has always been at the forefront of perpetuating technology. And of course, war is extremely negative because it deals with death and bloodshed. And it creates victims, and it just somehow convinces us that we need to approach life a certain way, whatever the governments say to combat war is correct. Something of the like. Another thing that, and then the governments somehow convince us that in order to combat our enemies within war, that we typically have to allow the government to become more and more encroaching. So some of the ways that the encroachment is manifesting is, I've noticed, is things are going to be more and more geared to paperless. Anything paper on paper is going to become wasteful. So the paperless is better. So that's a type of encroachment, because it takes away your choice, right? And then I'm seeing, like, we're getting mail, and on the envelopes, right on the envelope, it says, "Hey, go paperless. It's better." And then I get on the Matrix, the internet, the World Wide Web, and I have all these apps telling me, "Hey, hey, you can get points if you interact with this app a certain way." Like, really? And of course, there's the digital IDs. Did you know that there's 17 countries thus far who have said it's time for digital IDs? 17 countries, and uncoincidentally, in the state of freedom, we haven't been given that ultimatum yet. But north of us, Canada, south of us, Mexico, they've done it. And let's see. East of us, UK, they've done it. And Australia's done it. And I'm only saying that because aside from south of us, those other countries speak English. So just that common denominator of language. So, which is a good segue for me bringing up language, is time for Phonetic-Division. And I chose to look up the word choice. I thought that was a good choice because it's all going to boil down to our choices and what choices we have and the freedom of choice, and whether or not the freedom of choice will be taken away or threatened. The book says it will eventually. It's going to get so crazy that our choice to buy and sell, our choice to choose whatever, is going to be completely threatened to the point of death. And that sounds crazy now, but that's what the book says. So now it's time for some Phonetic-Division. Let's see what we can discover. Wait a minute. What happened to my laptop? Yeah, so I had to update my laptop to Windows 11. That was fun. Wait a minute. Here we go. No more Windows 10. It's out. I have to do Windows 11. Here it is. Now my laptop is... Okay. All right. Here we go. So here's choice. Oxford Languages, Google loves. And act of selecting, decision of two or more. So this always has to be, there's never just one choice. You can't make a choice if there's just one. It has to be two. And the obvious needs to be stated. So, and this definition I like. Whoops, can't put my finger there too long. It's the right. Choice is a right to make a selection. And you want to make sure you make the right choice within your right. So that's a bit of a pun, some pun there, punning about. Now, let's see. Oh yeah, check this out. This is continuing the entry of Oxford in Google. I thought this was interesting. So a choice is a very good quality. This is when it turns into an adjective. Very good quality. It's very good. But it also can be rude and abusive. So there's a little bit of hijacking there. How can it be good and bad at the same time? Well, I guess it can. I guess that's just a commentary of our existence. The duality. The knowledge of good and evil. So I thought that was interesting. So moving on from that, it says that this is the origin of, according to Google, it goes from German to French to English. Okay, now let's see if that's consistent in etymology, because if you don't take the time to do have a second opinion or to look at more than one resource, you would just consider that as gospel. So comparing it to etymology, English 14th century, it comes from the adjective. So the noun came from the adjective, apparently. There's something going on. The 13th century was the power of choosing. And then it came from French. And it's one's choice. Okay, so there's not too much difference there. So here we go. So French, and it says some other Germanic source, and it's related to Old English. Now look at this. In Old English, choose had something to do with the tasting. And then you go to the fake mother tongue, and the root says it comes from these phonetics, and it means to taste. That's the first definition, to taste, which is very, very telling. So let's move on from that. And I believe this is the next one here. The next part of this entry in etymology. So it's late Old English, choosy, development of choice, replaced Old English. And in Old English, it replaced free will, which is interesting because the word gives us the free will to choose. The word does not force our choice. The word simply warns us of consequences. So that's very interesting. So look at this. Adjective of choice, mid-14th century, comes from the noun. So did the noun come from the adjective, or did the adjective come from the noun? So let's go back here to this part, because I find this interesting. To taste. And then in Old English it was to taste. So do you know of any instances where there is an origin story where a choice came from tasting something? That sounds exactly like what happened at the beginning of the book. So this is why I find it fascinating when you look up words and you trace it back to the root. How is it possible? How is it possible that the word choice has anything to do with taste? To me, that's empirical evidence that the book is actually true. That the book is the truth. The word is the truth in the original meaning. And the concepts that came from the book is the fundamental truth, because it has something to do with taste. So from there, we have to look up this pi root. Here it is. So it means to taste. And look at this. In Greek, it forms words for taste in Greek and Latin. So Greek and Latin had to do about taste. And then, but its descendants in Germanic, and Celtic or Celtic mean try. But the semantic development could be either direction. Well, that's very interesting. We're going to continue with this entry. Oh no, there it is. Okay, so now it's going to break it down. Sanskrit means enjoy, pleasing. Okay, Persian is enjoy. There it is in Greek, taste. And then Latin, taste. Oh, but there's German, taste. Okay, so the thing about Sanskrit that's interesting is that's similar, exactly like the reason why the bad choices made at the beginning of the book, because it looked that which Eve was tempted to taste looked pleasing to the eye, and that it might be enjoyable. So again, that's very curious. That points back to the book. And then let's look it up in Greek, which is right here. And when there had been much disputing, Peter rose up and said unto them, Men and brethren, ye know how that a good while ago God made choice among us, that the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe. So God makes choices as well, which is very interesting. And this was pertaining to Peter started speaking about this because the dispute was over circumcision and whether or not the Gentiles had to submit to that. So the word choice in Greek is eklegomahi, and it's a compound word that comes from two Greek words, ek and lego. It just means make choice here, select, chosen. So let's look up ek, which is really interesting. Where are you, ek? No. Okay, so there's ek. It's a primary preposition and can also mean X. It can be written as X, which is extremely, extremely noteworthy and important. It's denoting origin. So, equations. X, what's X? That's not a coincidence. And, I like this one. By reason. By reason. So to make a choice, the Greek word, primary preposition, which is like a prime number, it's defined by reason. And the word wants us to make the choice to reason out our existence through the reasoning of the word. And then the second part of that Greek word of choice is the primary verb lego, which logos comes from, which is word in Greek, and it means to lay forth or relate, to mean, ask, show, speak. So it pertains to words, to show through words, to lay forth and relate in words. Oh, there it is, in words. So do you know? So the word says that the word that was made human, that was made into a human being, laid forth his life to relate to us, otherwise known as his sacrifice. And the word also allows us to ask. How can we reason if we're not allowed to ask questions? And the thing is that the enemy of the word does not like to be questioned. Authority figures who don't like to be questioned are not led by the word. And what's even more curious about that is when the enemy of the word posed a question to Eve and said, hey, is it really true that God, the word, said whatever he said? So he used the tactic of a question. The enemy of the word used the tactic of a question, but does not allow that tactic to be used against him. Hence, him being the originator of how to live backwards. So now let's move on to the next set of intel. So I think I went back to, let's see. Now let's look it up in Hebrew. Where are you? Is it already there? Oh, there it is. Okay. So in Hebrew, chosen and choose both come from the same word, primitive root. So it reads here, for thou art an holy people, a dedicated people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. So this is interesting because this is the remnant. This is pertaining to the remnant being the few. So as time draws to a close, the world, which is the majority, will be convincing people to force people's choice through threatening them. And they're going to do it under the guise of that they're following the word's example. And the enemy of the word will go as far as to be allowed to pretend to be the word returning to save everybody. But that is incorrect. That is a deception. That will be the creme de la creme of deceptions. So the word choose in Hebrew is bakar. It means to try, select, appoint, require. This word, bakan, also comes from bakar, and it's trial. So the chosen will have to go through a trial. I didn't find really any phonetic parallels. It was more just through the meanings that was fascinating. So I also looked up the word taste because taste is a fundamental definition of choice. The word choice, or the, let's see. Okay, so here it is. Oops. In the house of Israel called the name thereof manna, and it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. So here we go. The word taste in Hebrew is ta'am. It also means intelligence and reason. There it is again, reason and understanding. So this is very, very important. That choice has to do with taste, has to do with reason, intelligence, and understanding. It's all connected. And it comes from ta'am, and that means to perceive. So to taste is to perceive. And in Aramaic, which was the language that the word spoke when he was a human being, when he became a human being, it didn't lose those phonetics, and it means to feed. So that's all very interesting and important to know. So I'm going to go back to choice because it said to look up choose. Okay, that the free will from the base was imported word. It was closer to choose. So let's look up choose. In English, oh, look at that. Old English, 1066, means to taste, amongst the other definitions. To seek out. And to seek out, you have to question. Oh, there's German. Apparently, it goes straight to German, which is interesting. And then it goes back to this pi root, which is remotely related to choice. Just remotely. And then Middle English, irregular past participle, leveled out to chosen by the 1200s, which is weird because that's considered, like, what is that? Like 200 years before 14th century when choice came about. Okay. So let's see. Now, I I'm doing this again. I'm returning here because of this word, the semantic development. So the meaning could have either gone either way. It could have been taste or try. So let's look up semantics just for fun so we know what we're talking about. Oh, semantics, meaning in language or logic. Logic is reasoning. Can't have one without the other, apparently. And it goes from Greek straight to French, which is really strange because it jumps over Latin, which is typically not the case. So let's go to semantic. Adjective relating to meaning. French, psychology of language. From French, it came from Greek, which means sign or an omen or grave. Oh dear. Well, that's a bit morbid. It comes from the Pi root word that means to see or look. Well, that's interesting. And it also has something to do with meditating in Sanskrit. And then it says to see Zen. There's Zen from Buddhism, Japanese, Chinese. There's Sanskrit again, thought, meditation, see, look. So that's what semantics is. A sign, mark, and token. 1881. So that's a bit of more of a new age supernatural school of thought, as opposed to the book, which is more antiquarian, unless I'm getting my history timeline confused. And then this one I found interesting. The word has become loose in application. I'd venture to say that's happened to many a word. And it has something now to do with invest, which I never really semanticize as invest. That's very interesting. Okay. So that's a lot of school for thought in regards to that. The word choice has something to do with tasting, and the meaning has something to do with a sign or a grave of seeing, looking, thinking, meditating. Okay, so lots of things to think about. And though I didn't find a pun in parallel phonetics within Greek or Hebrew, I haven't really given it much thought. It wasn't as obvious as other examples. Excuse me. What I find really, really interesting about phonetic division and what it reveals, the process of it and what it reveals, is that the word says in the book, in the last book of the book, it says that the word is the root and the offspring. So you will find truth in the root, and you will find parallel truth in the offspring of languages, whether it be through the meaning staying consistent, or within the phonetics, and revealing parallel truths through that within puns. But we didn't find any puns, but we did find some interesting correlation of choice having to do with words, reasoning, tasting, seeing, understanding, all of that, which came from the beginning of the book in regards to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and we are living in the aftermath of the consequences of that choice. So remember, the word will have the last say that will last. So, don't let the climate change your soul.